The night started like any other. I had just finished my shift at the scrapyard, grease still clinging to my hands, when my friend Darrow dragged me to a neon-lit lounge in the edge sector of Earth 17. It was one of those fusion bars where aliens and humans mingled without awkward stares or border laws. Loud music, swirling lights, and scents I couldn't name filled the air. I didn't want to stay. But then she walked in, tall, elegant, and glowing faintly under the strobe lights. Her skin shimmered like a storm cloud before rain. Her hair was a cascade of dark silver, moving like it had its own rhythm. But her eyes were electric blue, pulsing with sparks as if stars were dancing inside. She moved with grace, but there was power under it. The kind of power you could feel in your bones. People turned to look. Some stepped back, others whispered. But she walked straight to me. "Human," she said, voice smooth like molten metal. "Are you alone?" I nodded, throat dry. "I am Varel." Her voice was gentle now, curious. "Would you share a drink with me?" It was more than a drink. The next few hours blurred into laughter, strange games, and talks about stars I couldn't pronounce. She was nothing like anyone I'd met, not just alien, not just gorgeous. She was wild and sweet all at once. She asked about Earth customs, and giggled when I explained pizza toppings. She let me touch a glowing tattoo on her collarbone that moved like lightning. She touched my face like she was learning it. And then, one thing led to another. That night, under a sky full of satellites and stars, in a quiet corner behind the bar where synth roses bloomed in every shade of blue, she kissed me. We didn't talk much after that. Words got lost somewhere between breaths and sighs. Her skin felt like fire and silk. Her lips tasted like electric fruit and something sweeter. Her heart beat fast, so fast, but it matched mine by the end of it. It felt like we had known each other for lifetimes, but when I woke up the next morning, she was gone. No note, no message, just a memory of her warmth and the soft hum of the tattoo she'd let me trace with my fingers. I looked for her for a few days, checked the bar, asked around. No one remembered her name. No one saw her leave. I told myself it was just a one-night dream. A beautiful, strange accident. Something to remember when life got dull again. Until 3 months later, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. There she stood, Varel, still radiant, though her face looked tired and her long coat was dusted with ash. But she was holding something. No, someone, a child. Small, maybe 4 years old. Short, white-blue hair, glowing silver eyes, and a little jacket that crackled with tiny sparks. The child looked up at me and blinked fast, like lightning was in her bones. "You need to listen to me," Varel said, her voice trembling. "I wouldn't come if it wasn't serious." I stepped back, heart pounding. Varel knelt, holding the child's tiny shoulders. "This is Tivana," she said. "She's my daughter, and after that night, she's also yours." I stared at the little girl, then back at Varel, unable to form a single word. My mouth opened, but no sound came. The kid tilted her head, eyes glowing like pale lightning, and gave me the tiniest smirk. It was the same kind of smirk Varel had worn when she first sat across from me that night. "I know it's sudden," Varel said softly, "but I have no one else to trust." I moved aside, letting them in without even thinking. My place was small, just a one-bedroom with old furniture and cluttered shelves. I watched as Tivana zoomed across the room in a blink, touching things, sniffing at a burnt toaster, then poking at my worn couch. She moved unnaturally fast, like her feet didn't quite obey gravity. "How is this possible?" I finally asked. Varel didn't sit. She stood by the window, arms folded around herself like a shield. She grows faster than humans. Her kind, our kind, develop quickly. Time runs different in her blood. "Our kind?" I echoed. "She's not fully Valari," That's my species, she explained. She's half human now, and that means she'll need both halves to survive. Tivina stopped in front of me, her tiny face curious. You smell like hot iron and burnt things. That's accurate, I said, trying to smile. She blinked. Are you really my father? I don't know yet, sweetheart. Varel stepped in. She needs you, not just for comfort. Her body is changing fast. Her energy surges have to be guided or she'll hurt herself. Or others. I looked at the girl again, who now had sparks dancing off her fingertips. One of them zapped my lamp and sent it flickering. You mean, like powers? She can bend static fields, manipulate current, and absorb charge. She's a little lightning storm. And without balance, it gets dangerous. Tivina sneezed, and a sudden crack split the air. A picture frame fell from the wall. Varel rushed over, checking her pulse and touching the girl's cheek with worry, etched into every move. She wasn't just some alien beauty anymore. She was a mother, a desperate one. She's beautiful, I whispered. She's everything to me, Varel said. But I can't keep her safe on my own. Too many are after her now. They want her tested, torn apart. The child of two worlds, they say. A walking power source. I couldn't believe it. One wild night had led to this, something I never planned for, something way bigger than me. But the fear in Varel's voice wasn't fake, and the little girl's spark wasn't normal. You came here? Why? I asked quietly. Because I remember how kind you were, how gentle. You treated me like a person, not an alien mystery. I wanted our daughter to meet that kind of heart before the world turns her cold. The room was quiet, except for the buzz in the air left by Tivina's tiny storm energy. She was now curled up in my blanket like it was her favorite thing ever. Stepped closer. So, what now? Varel looked up at me, her eyes glowing softer this time. Now, we try to become a family, if you'll have us. I didn't answer with words. Instead, I picked up the broken picture frame and put it gently on the shelf. Then I walked over to the girl and knelt down. Hey, Tivina, I said. She peeked up at me, hair sticking in all directions from static. Want to learn how to fix a toaster? Her smile lit up the room more than any spark. Varel wiped her eyes and whispered, You're already more of a father than I could have hoped for. The next few days were chaos, but the good kind. The kind where everything is upside down, but there's laughter in the middle of it. Tivina had the energy of 5 kids packed into one tiny body. She was fast, curious, and didn't seem to understand the word careful. By the second morning, she had already dismantled my microwave, asking, Why does it hum when it's hungry? Varel stayed close, always watching. She was quiet most of the time, like she was still deciding if this was real. I caught her, staring at me when she thought I wasn't looking. Her eyes held something heavy, hope mixed with fear. She wasn't used to depending on anyone. But every time I smiled at Tivina or made her laugh, Varel's shoulders dropped just a little, like she was starting to believe we could actually do this. One night, after Tivina finally fell asleep, curled against my chest like a kitten charged with electricity, I looked over at Varel. She was sitting on the floor, legs folded, a small, star-shaped pendant in her hands. You okay? I asked quietly. She nodded slowly. This was my mother's. She gave it to me before I left Valar. Told me to protect my heart, because humans steal them without knowing it. I chuckled. Sounds like good advice. She was right, Varel said, her voice barely a whisper. Silence stretched between us. But it wasn't awkward. It was thick with something unspoken, something warm. Her eyes flicked to mine, then dropped to the sleeping girl between us. I was scared, you know, she said. After that night, I didn't know if I'd ever see you again. I looked for you, I admitted, You disappeared like a ghost. I had to. My kind doesn't mix with humans easily. We're too unstable, too charged. One wrong touch, and we can overload someone's heart. Guess I'm tougher than I look. She smiled at that. A soft, rare smile that made her glow from within. I didn't just come back because of Tivina, she said after a pause. I came because I couldn't forget how you made me feel. Safe, seen, like I was more than just a mystery to be solved. I swallowed hard. Her words hit deeper than I expected. I leaned back against the couch, my hand still resting on the soft hair of the girl dozing against me. You know, I said after a moment, it's weird. I never saw myself as a dad. I barely keep my socks in pairs. But with her, I want to try. Varel's eyes shimmered, not with light this time, but emotion. She's fast, I added. Like really fast. She ran around the entire block before I even put my shoes on. She channels static currents, Varel explained. When she's excited, she moves like a spark chasing metal. Great, I muttered. We've got a toddler version of a lightning bolt living in my house. Varel laughed, really laughed, and it was the first time I heard her do it without any sadness underneath. It was a beautiful sound, sweet, like the air before a warm summer storm. That night, after carrying Tivena to the bed and tucking her in, I stood at the doorway for a long while, just watching her breathe. Her little hands still flickered now and then with tiny sparks. I felt Varel step beside me. She's going to change the world one day, she said. I looked at her, then back at the sleeping girl. Let's just start with getting her to sit. Still for breakfast. Varel leaned gently against my shoulder. Her touch was warm, and her hair smelled like ozone and wildflowers. I didn't move. I think I like this planet, she murmured. I turned my head, and she was looking at me with that same glow in her eyes as the first night. I think I like having you both here, I whispered back. She smiled softly, and her fingers brushed against mine. That night, I didn't sleep alone. Not because we planned it. Not because it was wild like before, but because something quiet and real had bloomed between us. And I held her, not like an alien or a stranger, but like someone who was finally home. Tivina woke us up before sunrise. Again. 1 second I was dreaming. The next, she zipped into the room in a blur of light, shouting, "I fixed your coffee machine! It makes sparks now!" I jumped out of bed like a fire alarm had gone off. Varel groaned beside me, pulling the blanket over her head with a tired laugh. Wait, did she say sparks? By the time I rushed to the kitchen, Tivena was already proudly holding up the machine, now humming with blue light and crackling softly at the edges. It smelled like burnt metal and roasted beans. I gave it extra charge, she beamed, her hair floating from the static. Now it brews fast. I unplugged the thing like it was a bomb. Let's maybe not electrify the coffee. Okay, champ? She nodded, clearly proud anyway. Varel joined us moments later, still wrapped in a blanket. Her sleepy smile made my heart flip. There was something magical about mornings with her and Tivena. Chaotic, unpredictable, sometimes mildly dangerous, but magical. After breakfast, which thankfully didn't involve any sparks, we all went outside. It was the first warm day in weeks, and the sun felt like a reward. Tivena ran laps around the block, occasionally vanishing in a flash of light and popping up again behind us like a giggling little ghost. She's learning control, I said, watching her leave streaks in the grass. She's happy, Varel replied, her eyes never leaving our daughter. That helps her stay balanced. Emotion fuels her abilities. Then I'll do whatever it takes to keep her smiling. Varel turned to me with something tender in her gaze. You already do. We sat together on the porch steps, letting the sunlight soak in. For a while it was quiet, just birds, breeze, and the distant zoom of our little storm child playing in the wind. But peace never lasts long. A strange humming began, low, mechanical, and wrong. Varel tensed. Her eyes snapped to the sky. Shimmering ripple appeared above, like heat rising but colder. It bent the air. "They found us," she said. "Who?" "Collectors, Valari scientists. They've been hunting hybrid children for years. They want to tear her apart to study her evolution." Tivena came to a stop mid-laugh, turning toward the sound. "What is that?" I grabbed her and held her close. Varel stood protectively in front of us, her palms glowing faintly. "They won't take her," she whispered. A sleek craft descended silently into the clearing nearby. It was silver, shaped like a teardrop, and hovered inches off the ground. Two figures stepped out, tall, in tight armor, their faces hidden behind shining helmets. "Virela Velar," one said. "You are ordered to surrender the hybrid child." "She has a name," I shouted, "and she's not going anywhere." Varel's power surged in her hands. The air rippled. Tivena hid her face against my chest, trembling. "I told you before," Varel growled. "I'll die before I give her to monsters." The lead figure raised a hand, and some kind of energy pulse hit Varel full in the chest. She staggered, falling to one knee. "Stop!" I yelled. Something inside me snapped. I stood in front of her, shielding them both. "You'll have to go through me." The soldier stepped forward, and then something incredible happened. Tivena cried out, and light exploded from her body. A wave of blue-white energy burst out, knocking the soldiers back like leaves in a storm. The air sizzled with electricity. My hair stood on end, and in the center of it all stood Tivena, her eyes glowing, her hands clenched. "She's mine!" She screamed. The soldiers scrambled back toward their ship, stunned and scorched. One of them hissed, "She's already bonded. She's chosen her protectors." The craft lifted off in a flash and vanished into the clouds. Silence followed. Smoke drifted across the grass. My ears rang. Varel looked up from where she'd fallen. She unleashed a full pulse. That's unheard of in one so young. Knelt beside Tivena. She was shaking, her sparks dimming. "Hey," I whispered, holding her face. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "I didn't mean to scare you." "You didn't," I said, kissing her forehead. "You protected us. That's what family does." Varel hugged us both, arms trembling. "I thought I lost everything again. But you stayed." "I told you," I said softly. "We're a family now, no matter what." She kissed me then, tender and fierce, and Tivena made a gross noise behind us. You're doing mouth stuff." Varel laughed into my shoulder. I laughed too, tears burning behind my eyes. Because somehow, in all this madness, love had formed between three unlikely souls, and no alien ship in the universe could tear that apart. The days after the attack felt different. The danger hadn't returned, but a shadow still lingered, like the scent of ozone after lightning. Yet something else had changed too. Us. Varel no longer glanced over her shoulder every 5 minutes. She began to smile more often, especially when watching Tivena. And Tivena, she was growing. Not just in height or speed, though she did outpace a delivery drone by the weekend, but in spirit. She clung to me a little tighter at night, crawled onto my lap without warning during the day, and whispered things like, "You smell like warm clouds, stepfather," as if that was the highest compliment in the galaxy. The word hit me every time, stepfather. It started as a joke between us, something Tivena picked up from a cartoon, but now she said it with pride, with love, like I was hers, like she was mine, and I was. One quiet evening, while the wind swayed through the trees and the sun melted into a pink sky, I found Varel sitting alone on the porch, gazing at the stars. I brought her a cup of non-sparking tea. She had finally shown me how to Brew her kind's favorite safely, and sat beside her. "Thinking about Valor?" I asked. "A little," she said, "but mostly about here, about us." She turned to me, and in the fading light, her silver blue eyes were stunning. Like they held pieces of every night sky across every world. "I didn't believe I could belong anywhere," she whispered. "Not after what I lost, but this strange little house, this wild earth, and you, it feels like home." I reached for her hand and laced our fingers together. "You do belong, here, with us." A silence bloomed, but it wasn't empty. It pulsed with meaning. Varel leaned in, resting her head on my shoulder. "You're not just her stepfather," she murmured. "You're our lightning rod. You ground us." I smiled. "You both electrify my life, literally." We laughed together, easy and soft, and in that laughter, the fear slipped away. Later, Tavina joined us with a blanket dragging behind her and a cookie in each hand. She plopped down between us, already yawning. "I had a dream," she said, "that we had a house on the moon, with windows that looked at the stars. Sounds like a nice future," I said. "We can build it," Varel replied, brushing Tavina's hair back gently. Together. That night, as I carried a drowsy Tavina to bed and tucked her in, she held my hand with her tiny fingers and whispered, "You're the best Earth Dad ever." My throat tightened. I kissed her forehead. "Sleep, little bolt." In the living room, Varel stood by the window, watching the sky. I came up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. "They'll come again, won't they?" I asked. "Maybe," she said. "But we'll be ready." And I believed her, because we were no longer just a man and an alien woman who shared one wild night. We were a family, a fast, messy, loving, spark-filled family, and I'd fight all the galaxies to keep them safe, no matter how wild life got, no matter how many sparks flew. This was home, forever.